Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Here to do my top games of 2019, and as usual I'm late to the party as always. I know we're in the middle of 2020 already, but to be fair, I did mention that in my channel earlier in the year that I was going to be late. And as I mentioned in my previous vlog video, this is going to be a somewhat common occurrence going forward, just because I am not buying as many I guess new releases on day one as I used to. So I'm saving my new releases purchases for Black Friday, which means a lot of the 2020 titles that I plan to play and that I already want to play, I'll be buying them towards the end of the year, Black Friday, holiday sales, which leaves me, which means I'm going to have to need a few months to beat the 2020 games, looking forward for next year. So with that being said, better late than never, I guess, for those of you that care, welcome to my top games of 2019. But in order to, I guess, somewhat make it up, I'm going to do a top 15 games of 2019 instead of the typical top 10 games. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'm here with my Sierra Nevada. So cheers, and we'll get started right away. Now for my number 15 game, I'm already gonna lose probably half of you watching the video. It's a genre that I know not a whole lot of people here play. In fact, none of the people that I know here on YouTube play sports games much, but I did want to include FIFA 20, which was released in 2019, as in my top 15, just because I put a lot of time into that game, anywhere around 20 to 30 hours. I typically play, the FIFA games yearly, and this time around I did it on the PS4. I typically play them through EA Access on the Xbox One, but FIFA 20 was a good one because it came with a lot of extra free DLC content. I thought that was a good, I guess, a good deed on behalf of EA, and the free DLC pertains to the Copa Libertadores. If you're a South American like me, you know exactly what that means for us. So pretty happy with the treatment we received from EA, and FIFA 20 was more of the same, but with better graphics, and the DLC content was worthwhile in my opinion. So FIFA 20 gets my top, my number 15 spot in the list. Moving up to number 14, I'm going to go with a smaller indie title. As some of you may know, earlier in the year I got a gaming laptop, which triggered me to reactivate my Steam account, which was dormant for many years. And going into sales, I think it's a perfect platform to try out cheap indie titles, and this one stood out because of the overwhelmingly positive reviews found on Steam. And that game is Piku Niku, which is also available on the Switch, and I believe on Game Pass as well for the Xbox One. But originally it was only available on Steam and on the Switch. And I plan on doing an impressions video on this, like a very short one, just because I enjoyed that game so much. It's if I have to quickly describe the game, it's a side-scrolling type of easy platformer. It reminds me of Kirby games in the sense that it's very easy and very short, but very enjoyable. The game has a nice theme and nice controls and a very nice backstory in my opinion. So I'll probably do an impressions video later on because I really enjoyed that game, and hence why I decided to include it in my top 15. So at number 14, Piku Niku for the PC on Steam. Now at number 13, I have a game that actually won last year, like Game of the Year of 2019. It's another smaller indie title that I do have an impressions video on my channel. I did enjoy the game a lot, but to me a little bit over-exaggerated having this to be the Game of the Year for the official awards from last year, the Game Awards. And that game is Untitled Goose Game. I played this via Game Pass on the Xbox One. And I thought it was a very fun game, very well made, very nice art direction, and the most impressive thing was the creativity behind the game. I really enjoyed my short time playing Untitled Goose Game, and hence why I decided to put it at number 13 on my list. Again, for me, a little bit of an exaggeration placing this at number 1, from the official Game Awards, beating other major AAA games, but to each their own. I understand it's a quality title, and for me it wound up being at number 13 on my list. At number 12, I have a game that unfortunately I was not able to finish it because my save file got corrupted, and I didn't lose all my progress in the game, but I lost some, and I got at that point I got upset and a little bit sidetracked, and I do plan on going back to this game. It's the first physical game that I have here to show you guys, and that game is Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes. A game that I do plan on doing an impressions video because I enjoy a lot of the Suda51 games, Grasshopper manufacturer. I enjoy the No More Hero games, both 1 and 2 on the Wii. They're among my favorite games on the system. And I was a little bit scared playing this title because fans of the series, even hardcore fans of the series, had some negative things to say about the game. And while I understand this game is not perfect, my time with it was actually very enjoyable. It has all the quirkiness, it has all the jank that is characteristic of the No More Hero games. And while this may not be a full-fledged No More Hero title, it does have that charm and the jokes, the art direction that are characteristic of the No More Hero games, and I really appreciated that. So I definitely want to go back to this game and beat it and do a full-on impressions video when the time comes. But at number 12, Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes on the Nintendo Switch. Now at number 11, I have a PlayStation 4 title, one that similarly to the last one, I was not able to beat it in time. I was really trying to push forward to try to complete this game, but I played it enough to pass Judgment on it, no pun intended. And that game is obviously Judgment on the PlayStation 4. A game that it's obviously very similar to the Yakuza games, which I'm a huge fan of. So it might surprise for some of you guys to put this at number 11 on my list, because every other Yakuza game that was released and I made a list about it, they always made it into my top 10. In fact, 2 of the Yakuza games, Yakuza 5 and Yakuza 6, actually were my game of the year. So it's not that Judgment is a bad game, it's just, in my opinion, it slows things down considerably, adding the mechanics of investigation, and playing the role of a detective or trying to solve cases. While it's fun and an original idea in terms of the incorporation in the Yakuza games, if you will, in my opinion, it slowed down things a little bit too much. So obviously I plan on doing a full-on impressions video when I beat this game, but Judgment made it to my top 11 list, not quite the top 10, but nevertheless, it's still a very solid title with a lot of writing, a lot of cutscenes, and a pretty deep story, obviously. So Judgment, number 11 on my list for the PlayStation 4. At number 10, I have another PlayStation 4 title that I did an impressions video recently, and it's on a series that that I delved into or dabbled in the past, with a couple of games, but I can't say I'm a huge fan and played every single game in the series. But this one in particular left a very good taste in my mouth, and that game is Ace Combat 7. Ace Unknown. This is the PlayStation 4 version. I have a full impressions video on this game. I really enjoyed the graphics, the way the game controls. It's just a fun game, a little bit on the challenging side, but a fun game nevertheless. The story is a little bit complex and not the best, but this game makes it up way more than that in terms of the graphics, the sound effects, and of course the gameplay in this game was just overall very, very fun. So if you guys want to know my full thoughts, check out my impressions video. But this was a fantastic game that I'm really glad I played it in time to put it in my list, and of course made it to the top 10 at number 10. So Ace Combat 7, a fantastic game, highly recommended. I still have to try the VR mode. It's supposed to be pretty cool, so looking forward to trying that in the near future. So now we're already inside the top 10, and at number 9, it might be like a surprise game. I haven't heard anyone on my circles talk about this game. It's a digital game, so I can't show you, but I did had an impressions video earlier, or I think last year, about this game, and that game is Super Kirby Clash. on the Nintendo Switch, a free to start game. I think that alone scared a lot of people into trying the game, but I decided to go in there, and no regrets. This is my most played Kirby game of all time. I put over 30 hours in this game, and while it's not your typical Kirby game, this is more of a both couch or online co-op type of I guess boss or rush attack type of Kirby game. It's very different from other Kirby games, but it's very addicting in the sense that you have to upgrade your armor, your weapons. There are different classes that you can choose. And while the gameplay, it's on the basic side of things, I still find that the game has a lot of strategy and a lot of depth. And it's a pretty cool way to experience all the different bosses and characters along the Kirby universe and games. So I had a lot of fun. I was addicted to this game for a while, couldn't put it down, and it's free to start. The game is fairly fair in terms of not making you buy things, but of course I went ahead and just bought the full thing, and had a lot of fun, no regrets, because I put over 30 hours, and in my opinion it was well worth my time and money to enjoy this game. So Super Kirby Clash for the Nintendo Switch is a digital only game at number 9 on my list. Now at number 8, it might be a game that actually may surprise a few of you on how quote-unquote, I guess, low or how bad it ranked on my top 15 list, because the game is based on my favorite series of all time, and that is The Legend of Zelda. And of course, I'm talking about The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. This is the remake for the Nintendo Switch based on the original Game Boy game that was released in the early 90s. And this is a fantastic remake. It's just, there were other games that I enjoyed more than this. Not to say this is a bad game or anything, quite the opposite. I think this is a quality, old school Zelda title. And I really like the fact that it's mostly a graphical remake. For the most part, the dungeon design remains pretty much the same as the Game Boy version. So you're going to find a lot of old school dungeon design elements that you can definitely feel while you play the game. You can see some old school design concepts that are very different from modern games. And on top of that, obviously this game had the remake treatment with very cute and colorful graphics. I enjoyed the graphics a whole lot, except the over excessive motion blur on the edges of the screen. But other than that, this game was fantastic, and I do plan on doing an impressions video. I'm running a backlog on my impressions video. There's like 3 or 4 other games that I want to talk before I get to Link's Awakening, and I do want to go back in this game and collect more of the hearts and shells that are hidden throughout the island. So definitely a standout title for the Nintendo Switch, and I really had a great time. So The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, fantastic game, made it at number 8 on my list. Now at number 7, this might be kind of like a surprise game for some of you guys. I did an impressions video just recently about this game, and that game is SteamWorld Quest. It's a turn-based RPG with a card, building deck type of combat system. I had a lot of fun in this game. I played the digital version. I don't think there's a physical version to begin with. I played this through the Stadia, service through Google, and I had a lot of fun. It was a very addicting card-based game once you learned the ins and outs of the battle system. The story, while it was not great, it was serviceable. It was pretty likable characters, pretty likable setting and story, obviously based in the SteamWorld universe, and loosely based on other games, obviously. But this game really shines in terms of its gameplay, the card-based combat system, and I had a lot of fun. I spent close to 20 hours playing this game, and it was a very enjoyable single player story mode that was a lot of fun. And yeah, I had so much fun in this game that made it all the way up to, I believe, number 7 on my list. So yeah, highly recommend it if you guys enjoy these types of games. To me, it was a pleasant surprise, and hence why it ranked so high on my list. At number 6, I have a game that I'm almost done with it. I still have maybe a couple more hours to go. It's a longer game. It's an RPG, a CRPG. Again, this is a digital version. I was playing these on a PC via Steam. And that game is Disco Elysium, a very interesting game. I've never played anything quite like this. It's a CRPG that doesn't really deal directly with like combat or battle system. It basically deals a lot with the decisions that you make. You basically play as a police detective and trying to solve this murder case, and from there everything goes to downhill pretty much because you don't remember anything. And the setting in this game is just fantastic, very unique. Industrial, but cyberpunk type of setting at the same time. This game just caught me by surprise. It's not a game for everyone in the sense that you have to read a lot in this game. This game is heavily based on text, scrolling through text, but it has a very interesting concept, playing in the psychological part of the character that you play as. You have to pick sides, whether it's a political side you have to, or a political view that you have to kind of like side with, or a psychological thing, or a social point of view. This game just goes deep into the psyche of this character that you play as, and it's a very, very interesting game with a very interesting world and very interesting characters. So needless to say, once I finish the game, I'll probably make an impressions video. But Disco Elysium, it's just a very pleasant surprise, and one of the games that as soon as I got my gaming laptop, that was one of the first Steam games that I purchased, because I was very excited. I've heard so many good things about Disco Elysium, from other people, other reviewers here on YouTube. So that was a game that I was very excited, and I can safely say that that hype was well worth it, and hence why it ranked so high on my list. And looking forward to finishing the game. I don't think that my opinion is going to change much, but yeah, Disco Elysium, a very, very interesting and unique CRPG that it's available now on PC. And now at number 5, we're finally getting into the nitty-gritty, the top 5 games. For number 5, it's another game that I did an impressions video somewhat recently, and it's another game that caught me by surprise. And that game is Plague Tale: Innocence, a game that I've heard a lot of good things. A lot of reviewers on YouTube praise this game a whole lot. It was in their top list of 2019 as well. But for me, I kind of went with a lot of curiosity, and this game definitely made an impact on me. A very emotional story about siblings that takes place during the Black Plague, and a very interesting concept. I do have a full-on impressions video if you guys want to watch my detailed thoughts on this game. But yeah, it was a very interesting game with a very unique stealth / combat and / puzzle solving type of gameplay mechanics that they all blend in together beautifully in a game that is just graphically, it looks great. The characters, in my opinion, are very likable. Both Amicia and Hugo are very well done and cast in this game. And then of course the other characters that you meet along your journey. This is a fantastic game. It's not very long, maybe 10 to 15 hours tops. Very, very pleasant surprise, especially coming from a smaller developer that I personally never heard of. So my hats off to them in terms of providing a very unique experience and in modern consoles. So yeah, A Plague Tale: Innocence on PS4, a very pleasant surprise. Really enjoyed this game. Unfortunately, the story takes a little bit of a downturn towards the end of the game. That's why otherwise this game would have ranked even higher on my list. So, but nevertheless, this game made it to my top 5. Very happy with it and highly recommend it if you guys have not played this yet. Now at number 4, I have another digital game that I don't even own. It's part of, I played it through PlayStation Now service, and some of you guys may already know what game that is. And that game is Control for the PlayStation 4. Yet another game that I have an impressions video, a very long one, because I really enjoyed my game my time with this game from Remedy. Very intricate and interesting story, very interesting characters and NPCs, and of course the gameplay was just crazy, over the top, using all your different powers in order to fight the enemies. The place, the bureau was just a very interesting building to explore, very, in a way, spooky, and I don't know, it was just a very interesting and strange place to explore. All the different paranormal or events and enemies that you encounter through the game were fantastic. And I just had a lot of time with the game. I had a really good time with the game. I really like how Remedy is kind of tying in, or trying to tie in, whether it's loosely or in a way, with the Alan Wake games, with the Quantum Break games, and now Control. They're all kind of like part of this universe. I really like that connection. And of course, the game just was an overall very, very fun journey for me. The combat was very, very rewarding, a little bit on the challenging side, especially the side missions and the side bosses were a little bit frustrating, but nevertheless, I think Control was a very solid title, and another game that a lot of people highly reviewed this game, and for a reason. I think Control is definitely the pure definition of a AAA game, very well done. So that's why I decided to put Control at number 4 on my list. Now, my top 3, this is where it gets a little bit tricky and very hard, because my top 3 were very, very close to one another. So decisions had to be made, sacrifices had to be made. And for number 3, it pains me a little bit, but I had to go with the following game here. And that game is Fire Emblem Three Houses. I had nothing but good things to say about this game in my impressions video that I did recently. I had a lot of fun with this game. It might as well be my favorite Fire Emblem game to date. I really enjoyed the three houses concept. The fact that you have your students, you have to kind of like bond and teach them, and spend the journey with them. I think that's great for character development and character building. I really enjoyed my time. I played with the Golden Deer house and had a great time, getting to know the characters, getting to do all the activities in the mercenary. That was a really fun. And in a way, I'm looking forward to replaying this game. I don't know when exactly. I did start a second playthrough with the Black Eagles. That I'm still pretty early on in the early chapters, but this is just a fantastic game that really obviously takes advantage of the Nintendo Switch. The graphics are better than any Fire Emblem game to date. The soundtrack also amazing. So this is just an overall great product. If you guys are into quality strategy RPGs or JRPGs, look no farther than Fire Emblem, the Three Houses. Pains me to put it at number 3 because this game could have easily placed second or even first on my list of games of 2019. So a fantastic game, most definitely one of the best, if not the best, Fire Emblem game out there. So highly recommend it if you guys have a Nintendo Switch and haven't played this game yet. At number 2, another digital game that I don't even own because I played this through Game Pass on the Xbox One. And that game is The Outer Worlds, another game that I had a very positive impressions video on. So if you guys want to listen to my full thoughts on this game, make sure you check that out. But I decided to give the edge and put Outer Worlds at number 2 over Fire Emblem, just because I'm not incredibly well acquainted with Western RPGs, so I thought this was the perfect chance to fully enjoy a game that just has an incredibly interesting world, NPC characters. The decision making in this game actually matters. The game is structured so well that I think it checks all the boxes for decision making and just RPG elements that a lot of fans were eager or kind of hoping that the modern Fallout games would have. But this game kind of takes that and improves everything and just has a very, very solid package that it's also time sensitive. In a time where a lot of our RPGs are 60, 80, 90 hours. This game can be very comfortably be completed in around 20 to 30 hours, which I thought it was very interesting. And just the pacing in this game is just fantastic. The different planets and worlds that you get to explore in this game are great. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of incredibly well acted and voice acting and scripting in this game. So overall, The Outer Worlds was just a very well put together product. You know, the first-person shooter mechanics, the gunplay, was very well, not top-notch like other first-person shooter games out there. It was very appropriate, and the game was just very fun. You know, getting new weapons. You know, that whole looting system, if you will, of getting new weapons and different types of skills. You know, for your characters and NPCs. Everything was very well done in this game, hence why I decided to give The Outer Worlds the number 2 spot on my list. And finally, time for the number 1 game here. Maybe some of you may already know by process of elimination. There is one game that I really enjoyed. It's one of my favorite series in gaming, probably my second most favorite behind The Legend of Zelda. And of course, we're talking about none other than Resident Evil 2, the remake, for this one for the PlayStation 4. Fantastic game that I need to get back and get all the endings, but it doesn't take a whole or a full playthrough to or getting all the endings to appreciate this very well done and fantastic remake by Capcom of the 1998 classic. I was a little bit scared when they first announced this game because I'm a huge fan of the original game. But I have to say that Capcom did a fantastic job on remaking this game, paying homage to the original, but at the same time changing a few things here and there. The order of sequences is not exactly the same as in the original. There are a couple of new things that are added in this game, so everything was very, very well done in this game. The graphics are fantastic. I think Capcom has a winner with their new physics engine that they developed for this game. I think starting with Resident Evil 7, that's the first time they used it. But man, for the next generation, they're already covered with that engine they have going on. And the graphics in this game are just amazing. The soundtrack, the cutscenes in this game are gorgeous, and the overall experience of shooting zombies, the tension, the survival horror elements are there. Mr. X is annoying as hell. He puts a lot of stress and pressure on you, the player. So which are elements of a survival horror game, and definitely why Resident Evil 2 was such an enjoyable experience. So needless to say, I'm looking forward to playing Resident Evil 3, the remake. Obviously, I haven't purchased that game yet. I'll probably get it on Black Friday. I understand it's not as good as this one, but nevertheless, I'm really excited and grateful for Capcom for basically remaking these classics. It's great to be enjoying high-res details of Raccoon City, the RPD department, Raccoon Police Department. All these areas that have a lot of nostalgic values and feelings for me because I played those games back in the day, and seeing them, in the gorgeous, 4K, HD graphics, it's just fantastic and very, very, just a very good experience overall. So Resident Evil 2 gets the number 1 spot on my list. Very easy choice for me. So that's it, guys. That's my top 15 games of 2019. There are other games that I missed out that I didn't really play, like Death Stranding. It's one that I really wanted to try, and I could go on. I can give you guys a list of heavy-duty titles of that were released in 2019. In my opinion, it was a very good year. I really wanted to include Astral Chain in there because I didn't play that game, but I know a friend that played it, and I kind of watch him play. I do own that game, but that's another one that I think could have made my list. But anyway, I can be sitting here talking about tons of other games that I think could have made it on my list. But I think this was a very solid 15 games that I shared with you guys. A little bit surprising here on the, I think there's only like 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's only 7 physical games there versus 8 digital games. So that's, I guess, the science of the times, or at least with my collection. But as you guys can probably know, I'll probably do the same thing with 2020, be a little bit late to the party again. But I really enjoyed making these videos. So I hope you guys also enjoyed my list. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all later. Cheers. Have a good one.